guys, it's Texas Swag here. I'm going to be reading you Horrible Histories USA by Terry Deary, illustrated by Martin Brown. I'm not going to read this whole book because it's pretty huge. So we're just going to read Cruel Columbus. Christopher Columbus was supposedly the person that founded America. The date everyone remembers is in 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue. But Chris Columbus was probably the worst thing ever to happen to the land we call America. Forget those stories that he was an explorer setting off to prove the world was round. In 1492, most people knew that because you could see it when a ship disappeared over the horizon. No, Chris was after one thing: wealth. Chris and his Spanish masters wanted gold, land, gold, slaves, and gold. That's what they got. The land and the gold belonged to the native Indians, of course, but that doesn't matter to the savage Spanish. The invasion cost Chris very little. It cost the Indians he met everything. Cruel Columbus timeline. 28,000 BC. That's before even Gucci was born. First humans arrive in North America from Asia. AD 982. Viking Eric the Red discovers Greenland, and Vikings almost certainly reach America. 1492. Along comes Christopher Columbus to discover America, though the native people had never lost it. 1504. Sailor Amerigo Vespucci visits the New World. Letters say he discovered it. A map maker believes the letters and names the New World America after Amerigo. The name catches on. 1587. English Queen Elizabeth sends settlers to claim land in North America. 114 land at Roanoke. 114 disappear, never to be seen again. Terrible textbooks. Everyone knows Cruel Chris Columbus, as we are going to refer to as CCC, was an Italian who discovered America for the Spanish. But was he? That's one of the facts that many historians argue about. But there are quite a few about the mysterious Mr. C. Columbus was born in Genoa in Italy, or maybe Spain, or maybe Portugal, or maybe Corsica. No one can agree. Horrible histories can state for certain he was not born in all four. Columbus's dad was a poor weaver, or a rich weaver, depends on which book you read. Columbus went to the king and queen of Spain to get ships for a voyage to India. They turned him down, and poor, sad little Columbus rode off. Then a messenger rode after him. The marvelous monarchs had changed their mind. Except that's just a fairy story that never happened. Columbus wanted to sail west to reach the east, but his sailors believed in the flat earth because they were flatheads and they were scared of sailing off the edge of the earth. They even threatened to throw Chris over the side. Except none of that is true. Columbus landed in the West Indies in 12th October 1492 and became the first European to set foot in the Americas. Date and place true, but nothing else. The Vikings almost certainly reached North America 500 years before him. CCC also always believed he had landed in Asia, or the Indies, as it was known. And that's why he called the natives Indians. Columbus did all this for Spain, but they left him to die poor and alone. Poppycock. He died wealthy with the title Admiral of the Ocean Sea. Cruel Chris Columbus. Why don't school books tell you the truth? Because they want you to believe nice fairy tales. Here are a few foul facts about Cruel Chris Columbus. 1. Greedy Chris. By 13 October, CCC's diary already shows his true colors. At daybreak, great multitudes of men came to the shore. I listened very carefully to them and tried to find out if they had any gold. I gathered from their signs that if I sailed south, I would find a king with great cups full of gold. I could conquer all of these people with just 50 men and rule them as I please. 2. Slaver Chris. When CCC set off for home, he kidnapped around 20 Indians. The terrible conditions on the ships meant only 7 arrived in Spain alive. They were enough to show the Spanish that these strong Indians would make great slaves. CCC headed back to the New World, and this time he had over 1,200 soldiers armed with guns, swords, cannons, and attack dogs. And he wasn't going for a holiday. Disney World hadn't been invented. He was going back for more slaves. In 1495, the Spanish rounded up 500 Arawak Indians on Haiti to be sent back to Spain and took another 500 to work for them on the islands. Half the slaves died on this journey, but CCC shrugged and said, "Although they die now, they will not always die. We can send all the slaves from here that you can sell." But he was wrong. Forced work and dreadful diseases would eventually kill off all the Arawaks. 3. Trendy Chris. Chris set a fashion for turning natives into slaves. By 1516, the Spanish on Haiti had killed off most of the Arawaks, and they were having to bring in slaves from other American Indian lands. Slaves were packed into ships like sardines on supermarket shelves. They were locked in to stop them escaping and died in the filthy, scorching air. Spanish history writer Peter Martyr said you didn't need a compass to find your way along the slave ship routes. All you had to do was follow the trail of dead Indians that had to be thrown overboard. When the Spaniards ran out of slaves, they started capturing them in Africa and taking them across the Atlantic to work there. CCC began the terrible slave trade that lasted another 400 years. Lord Chris. 4. The Spanish forced the Arawaks to obey them. Every now and then they packed a fresh batch off to Spain as slaves. A Spaniard said, "When we went to round up the Arawaks, there were many women with babies in their arms. The women were so afraid they left their babies on the ground and ran away." Your mom wouldn't do that, would she? The Arawaks who escaped were hunted down for fun and killed. Quick quiz. What use was a dead Arawak to a Spaniard? A. The corpses were fed to the Spanish dogs. B. They were stood in fields as scarecrows. Or C. They were thrown on fires as fuel. The answer is A. The corpses were fed to the Spanish dogs. 5. Cruel Chris. CCC went back to Haiti in 1493 and forced the Indians to work for the Spanish. They had to grow food, dig for gold, or spin cotton. The Indians weren't allowed to say no, and an Indian who disobeyed would have gross stuff happen to them. 6. Record breaker Chris. CCC made a fortune in gold for his Spanish lords and a fair bit for himself. He may not hold the record as the first European on American soil, but he probably has a much nastier record. CCC probably sent more Indian slaves to Spain than any other single person, and the Arawaks who stayed on Haiti became slaves too. CCC's system was simple. You will each pay me in gold, cotton, or food. You will pay every 3 months. In return, I'll give you a copper token that you will wear around your neck. Any man or woman caught without a token will immediately have a body part cut off. Fair enough? The Arawaks spent so much time earning their tokens they hadn't time to feed their families. Foul fact. The Indians soon grew so desperate they couldn't stand living with CCC and his friends any longer. Many killed themselves by hanging, poison, or throwing themselves onto sharpened wood stakes. Fowler fact. Sometimes 100 at a time jumped off a cliff. Foulest fact. Many mothers killed their children to save the kids from a life of misery. 7. Warrior Chris. CCC was a great fighter, but only when he was fighting against people with cannons, swords, or horses. When the Arawaks tried to fight back in 1495, CCC sent heavily armed soldiers to mow them down. CCC had a son, Ferdinand, who wrote about his dreadful dad and said he used an even more terrible weapon against the Indians. The most terrible weapons were the 20 attack dogs who immediately tore the Indians apart. These animals ripped open the limbs and bellies and chased fleeing Indians into the bush. The Indians who were captured alive were simply killed. Foul fact. In later use, these dogs were used to hunt Indians just for sport. The way people with beanbag brains hunt deer today. 8. Cheating Chris. CCC wanted everyone to believe that he had done what he set out to do. Sailed west to find Japan in the east. He made his men swear an oath. I swear by Almighty God that we have landed near Japan. If this is a lie, may I have my tongue cut off of my head. So it wasn't only the poor American Indians who suffered Chris's cruelty. Final foul fact. There were around 2 million Arawaks on the West Indian islands of Greater Antilles when CCC arrived in 1492. 60 years later, there were none. All right, and that will conclude our story about Cruel Columbus. I hope you learned a lot. I certainly did. I learned some foul facts. All right, thank you for watching, and bye-bye. This is Texas Swag, over and out.